So we went to Bali. At the airport we met our driver Echo and hit the road where rainy season greeted us with open arms. Our first destination was Ubud, where I petted a cat, and then we made our way to the monkey forest, where thieving monkeys rocked up on their scooters in hopes to steal some food. On the way in we got greeted by a couple of extremely tense statues, and I also had some cool koi fish. Then of course Marta couldn't stop herself from feeding the monkeys, but at least these guys were pretty chill. We later went to a silver jewelry workshop where I challenged the locals to make names, which is a Latvian ring, and their only point of reference was this exact photo, and this is how they made it. Alright, the video doesn't show it, but we had about 5 variations of this ring until we came to this version, which I think is pretty damn close. Marta actually made herself some earrings while I had the ring done, which you can see in this video, where we partake in our primary hydration method of drinking giant coconuts all the time. So wearing our new bling, we went to our next place, which was a house on the plantation field. But man, the concept feels a bit wrong. You're in this air-conditioned, beautiful house with a pool at the front, enjoying a cocktail or something, while this dude's just working his butt off next to you in the sweltering heat. The next day, we checked out the markets. And in the evening, we found this car park where the locals pulled out a whole cooked pig in the back of the truck. So we made the decision to stay and help them eat it. The next morning, we got up nice and early, had a bit of brekkie, and then we decided to suss out the country with a scooter, which was a little bit sketchy, but once you get used to it, it's actually not that bad. We went past a bunch of temples, went to a rice field to do the Instagram-y swing thing, went to see some waterfalls and more waterfalls, and then some more. Of course, a giant coconut for some hydration, Marta feeding more animals, me feeding myself. Then we saw the tourist temple, but we didn't partake in a ritual as it felt a little bit strange to do it, but they had some cool geyser looking things. Then we went to a day club for a good feed, but again kinda strange, just cocktails and pool mixed with watching people working on rice fields. The next day we went for an ATV ride, which took us through some puddles, some tunnels, more puddles. Then we did this tornado thingy in the water, which completely soaked us. And then we got soaked again doing some whitewater rafting. After that, we went to a poop coffee place. And the lady there was kind enough to let me pretend I'm roasting the beans. We tried a coffee, which was actually surprisingly good. And then we went to our next stop, Mount Batur. Because it's low season, we were the only ones who stayed at the next resort. But that also meant we had very limited choices for food, so we just shared a kilogram of mangosteen and hit the sack. The next morning was magical, but also stressful. We were supposed to watch the sunrise on top of the mountain, but our driver rocked up about 2 hours after the actual sunrise because he slept in. But we still had a good time, had a bit of brekkie on the mountain, copped a tiny bit of rain, and saw some beautiful sights. After the mountain, we went to check out the lava fields, and then the hot springs, which wasn't too exciting, especially for Marta, because she's pregnant and she can't go in a hot water. but at least there was a cat. Our next stop was Ahmed Beach. When we got there, we were absolutely knackered, so Marta went for a nap while I stoked up the views, which were absolutely magical. It had a Mediterranean vibe. Next morning, after a bit of brekkie, we decided to join some of the local fishermen. They showed us their traditional ways of catching fish. Then after a bit of excitement of almost catching something, we went for a quick dive. Apparently this is some sort of a Japanese warship shipwreck. And then we went to the fisherman's house to cook up a meal. We were supposed to cook the fish that we catch, but the problem is we didn't catch any fish, so we just cooked up some chicken. I felt like a failure as a man because I couldn't cook something I've caught for my wife. So I found a local spear fisherman who took me out the same day. Luckily, he was much better than I was, so we ended up getting a big black snapper. He gave me half of it, which I took to our hotel restaurant, and they were kind enough to cook it up for us. The next morning, we went to Batang Pai, where we were supposed to catch a ferry to Penida, but we decided to jump off a little bit earlier, so we went to Lembongan instead. We actually didn't have a place booked yet, so we just took a scooter and buzzed around the beautiful island. And man, we checked out 12 places, and all of them were pretty much empty. We ended up getting a place by the beach, where my wife was able to enjoy the most beautiful sunset with her glorious husband, who can actually bring home food. The next morning, we decided to go snorkeling. Now we were supposed to see some manta rays, but we couldn't get there because the water was too rough, but we still had a good time. We blew some bubbles and saw some fish. Afterwards, Marta tried riding a scooter for the first time, then we buzzed around the island, ate at some beautiful places, and fed some ants, because why not? We also checked out a day club, which is pretty cool, had some good views. And oh boy, out of all the days, the wind was picking up and the storm was coming in, and we were supposed to go to the mainland the next day. Let's just say the ride was a little bit rough, but we made it to Sanur. After getting off, some freak gusts of wind hit and pulled down a few trees around us, but it quickly stopped and we went to Seminyak. And after a weird and ticklish experience at a fish spa, we just spent the evening decompressing and chilling out before going back home.